Please note that this content is for adults only. Viewer discretion advised. If you haven't yet, hit the subscribe, like, and share. Hello everyone and welcome back to another live stream with me, Grizzly. This is Grizzly True Crime, and today we're going to have a very special guest with us, Lauren Conlin. I'm sure you've seen her on Nancy Grace, on Court TV, and all over the place. She's also got her own channel, so we're going to be sharing. It's already shared in the description box for you. Nightbot will be sharing it as well every 5 to 7 minutes or so. So I hope you'll check out her channel there, and then afterwards, we're actually all going to teleport because Lauren has a show coming up right after this one to continue the conversation of what we're talking about today. Now, if you guys haven't followed the Kansas moms, it's kind of how the case is known in the media because this case involves a lot of people. There's 2 Kansas moms who were last seen on March 30th, Veronica, Butler, and Jilian, Kelley, and they were going to Oklahoma to fetch Veronica's kids, and then they went missing. Their bodies were found on April 14th, buried in a freezer in the ground. And the last episode that we did on this, we actually went over the autopsy details, which was just so devastating. But since there has been a 3-day preliminary hearing, and Lauren actually attended the hearing, she was there in the courtroom every day. So she's able, because there's no cameras in the courtroom. So she's going to be able to tell us what happened there. There's a lot of questions that we, of course, have. We've got limited time. So I've written them down, Grizzlies. We're going to be powering through these, and then we're going to continue the conversation. As in, we're going to be watching Lauren continue the conversation on her channel. All right. Thank you so much, Queens. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Please like and share so others can also find us. And let me bring up our special guest, Lauren. Welcome.
Hi. Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, it is. It's such a great honor to have you here. I've seen you all over the place, Court TV, Nancy Grace, all the places. If people want to find your channel, which channel must they go to first?
So my channel, yes, this is Pop Crime TV. This is my personal channel. I put a lot of heart and soul and work into this. I cover a lot of crime, but also a lot of celebrity crime as well, hence the Pop Crime TV. And then I also have a show. I'll be dual streaming with, former homicide prosecutor Jarrett Ferrantino, who is amazing at breaking down all of the legal documents and all of the things that I have questions about as I go through these cases. So I mean, I'm busy, but I really like covering this stuff. I mean, I will say this past couple of days, I am still recovering from this, but I think it's really important that that justice is served and that people are aware of what's going on all over the world when it comes to this. In this case in particular, Gazella, I mean, I don't think any of us were ready for what we were about to hear, to be honest.
No, and every step of the way it gets worse. And every time I think, wow, okay, this is now another document, we deep dive it. Like then we hear about the freezer in the ground. The next minute we hear about the autopsy reports, and it's so horrifying. They were stabbed so many times. I couldn't even believe the brutality of this crime and how many people are involved as well.
Yeah, and I think for me, the courtroom was so small. Knowing and look, I knew Veronica's family was there, but I didn't know that Jillian's family was there until the second day. And the first day was so horrible. And I even thought to myself, thank God Jillian's family isn't here. And then I found out they were there. So it was hard. And that's putting it very mildly.
I can only imagine. So what made you decide to go? Because you're based in New York, right? So what made you decide to actually attend this hearing? I know you follow a lot of cases very closely. You also love documents like I do as well. So what made you decide to deep dive this case and travel there?
Yeah, so I also have an audio podcast called The Outlier. And when they went missing, I don't know what it was, Gazella. Something inside me. I mean, I'm a mom. I have 2 kids, and it was the day before Easter, and I love Easter as a Christian. And one of the women I found out was a preacher's wife, and I was like, this is so odd because first of all, you know, as well as I do, it's very rare for two people to go missing at the same time, same location. And it didn't make sense. The day before Easter, they're both moms, they have kids. And so I wanted to sort of dive into this case. And I did on the outlier. And I have a way that I guess I can be annoying to certain people. I think I have that face sometimes, and everyone's like, oh, she's a Valley girl, whatever. But I do tend to connect with a lot of people as well. So I had some locals reaching out to me about the case, and I was like, okay, this makes sense. I want to help. I want to cover it. And then a few months later, I started the show with Jarrett, and you know, I brought him into it, and he was just instrumental in some of the legal stuff. And I'm a freelancer. I freelance different projects. And again, something about this case, I just feel like there's more. And I feel like I want these women to have justice, right? But I think that their deaths won't go in vain if I have anything to do with it. So yeah, I'll leave it at that. But girl, the trip was, oh my gosh. I mean, from to there, it was like 2 different planes, a 3-hour drive into Nothingville. I mean, I'm horrible. I don't drive. I got pulled over. I almost hit a wrap. It was awful. But anyway, I made it. I'm in somehow. So.
And did you manage to like drive around the area, you know, the property where they were buried, and see things like that, like where their car was last seen? Were you
Yeah,
able to see that sort of area?
I did a little bit of that. I didn't have too much time. The property where they were buried is private, and I was alone. So I did not go to the burial property, but the property owner, Jamie Beasley, he did testify. In my opinion, he was scared. He kept looking at Tad Cullum. At the end of his testimony, he said he didn't recognize the skid steer, which I thought was awkward. The skid steer was to be the one that Tad rented. And I was kind of just like, oh, honey, you did recognize it. I mean, you told us OSBI, you kind of recognized it, but yeah, he was nervous. He was definitely nervous, Jamie Beasley. He said so. He said he had a bad feeling when they went missing. And Tad and Tiffany came to his house, you know, a couple days before, and offered to plant some trees for him, and you know, or move some tree stumps away. And he said, yeah, sure. And he just said, you know, the day they went missing, he had a feeling, but he didn't really want, you know, the DA said, well, why didn't you call the sheriff's office or the OSBI? And he just said, I was scared. I was scared for my kids. And the DA didn't really press further. Like, why were you scared? I mean, the DA is another topic, I guess, for another day, because I thought he did a horrible job. And I know that it was a preliminary trial, and clearly the goal there was to ensure there was enough evidence to go to trial. The job was done, right? But in my opinion, he did not describe or elicit the brutality and the barbaric nature and the pure evil of what happened. It was only when the second chair, Tao Smith, questioned Paul Grice that we really, really understood. And we fully don't understand all of it yet. But that's when we really understood just how, I mean, it's hard to put into words.
And I wonder why that is. Why would the DA be like that? Or is he saving the best, you know, for the trial? I hope so.
You know, I have thoughts, but it would take too long. It's a small town. Let's put it that way. This DA presides over 4 different districts. Guyman, where the courthouse was, Texas County, that's the largest district. That's about 20,000 people, I'd say. But where Tiffany Adams and Tad Cullum and the others lived, that's about 2,000 people. I mean, and this DA and even the judge, I mean, I was making jokes about the DA. He's old man River. He's so old. But the judge, by the way, he had control of the courtroom. He was just, again, honestly, probably 89, if I had to guess.
Okay. Okay. So let's hope the trial, they really bring the A game so that they can get full justice for.
It'll be a different judge for the trial. It'll be Judge John K. Parsley, who I spoke to locals in the area, and they seem to think that Parsley's very good. So I haven't really taken a dive into him yet, but I'll get there.
Okay, and then I know that it's like high security because these were sovereign citizens. They're all wearing bulletproof vests, and I think there's like people on the roof, there's security as well. So what was the vibe like in the courtroom? What did it affect you at all? Were you allowed your cell phone in there? Things like that.
Oh no, no, this was so annoying. And this is why I kind of deleted some of my tweets because I was trying they would give us literally 5 to 10 minute breaks. Okay. We were not even allowed to have our cell phones in the courtroom. So the court itself was upstairs. So I had to run down like 6 flights of steps, run to my rental car, try to tweet out. And I was trying to it was a mess. And then, run back up because they said, if you are not here by the time we shut the door, that's it. You can't get back in. So I was scared. So I went back and I was like, oh God, this tweet did not come off the way I wanted to come off. So I was like, ah, but no, there was the Texas County Sheriff's Office. They were not messing around. I mean, I would say each defense attorney had asked the judge if their client could be uncuffed to either take notes or, for whatever reason, and when they're testifying, and the judge was like, no. He's like, no, 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 no. And I was kind of like, thank God.
Sure. Okay. So, but you relayed so much information on X as well. It was very helpful as well.
Oh,
And I'm so
good.
glad to have you here so you can tell us more. Because, by the way, if you feel confused at all, just know there's a playlist for you. We've gone over it before. I need to see pictures all the time of these 5 people, who's who, what happened. But there are 5 defendants. And
Yeah.
essentially, some of them didn't participate in this preliminary trial or hearing because they waived their right to a speedy trial. So, of the 5, which ones did that? Which ones didn't participate?
Well, it only lasted, I'd say, a day and a half because by the end, they all had waived except for Tad Cullum. So when we already knew that Cora Twombly and Paul Grice had waived their right to a speedy trial and a preliminary hearing, and just so people are aware, just because you waive your right to a speedy trial doesn't mean you're not going to have one. It just means it could take a while. They had already waived it. We're sitting, we all gather in. And if I may, I will just describe when the suspects came in, Tiffany, Tad, and Cole. And as I even say this to you, the hairs on my arms are just standing up. Tad was huge, like ginormous. He got a little fat from the pictures that I've seen. His eyes are black. A few times he locked eyes with me. And the first time I looked away, but the second time I was like, you know what, bitch, I'm going to hold your gaze right now. I'm going to make you feel uncomfortable too. I don't know. I guess with the bulletproof vest and the shackles, I felt powerful that he could, but Tiffany, she almost skipped in. It was the most bizarre thing. She kind of giggled and sat. And so her table was in the front, and then it was Cole's, and then it was Tad's. And Cole, he's always smiling. He kind of, I don't know, I'm not trying to be rude, but he's almost like a half-wit or something. Like he honestly could have been sitting through a child's performance of a play or at his own murder trial. I couldn't tell. So right away, the judge says, I think that Tiffany Adams' lawyer has an announcement. And you could tell that she had just decided this because they did not even have paperwork ready. And she announced that she'd be waiving her right to the pretrial hearing and her right to a speedy trial. And the judge is like, well, do you have the paperwork? And her team's like, no. And so I was like, what? And then I looked over at Tad and his neck just turned red and like there's like a vein in it. So I was like, ooh, he didn't know either. And I'm sure your viewers know that they were a couple. So
Yeah.
but I mean, I guess they can't have communication, but I'm sorry. They are all in the same Texas County jail. I find it really hard to believe that they don't ever talk or have ways of communicating.
Right. And for everyone, Tiffany is the grandmother. I still can't believe that she's the grandmother of these 2 children. And she sounds like the puppet master behind all of this, controlling all of them, involving all of them. And then I wanted to get to that later, but maybe you could tell us now, because apparently she had like this evil laugh while the murders were being committed. Is that correct?
Yeah. So, oh my gosh, this was I'll just preface, I don't know. And I hope to God that I never have to experience anything like that ever again. Like I said, it's reporters were crying. I mean, so at this point, Paul was giving his testimony on the stand, and the second chair was asking the questions, not the DA himself. And Paul was sobbing through it, sobbing. He could not get through it himself, and as he's sobbing, everybody is crying audibly. I mean, it's bad. And so he describes at the end, when he believes that Veronica has died, he says he kind of tries to stand up, and he's just, his arm was numb because she tased him in the arm, and he was just out of it, and he kind of falls to the ground kind of next to Veronica's body. And the DA, or the second chair, asks, well, what was Tiffany doing at this point? And he said, I'll never forget it. She was walking around us in a circle, and she laughed, and she laughed the most evil laugh he said he's ever heard in his life. And from the back where I think Veronica's family was, you actually heard a scream. And then the reporter next to me actually looks at me. Can I curse? Am I allowed to curse on your show? Or
It depends how much.
okay, I will say it then. I'll say, she looked at me and she said, "What the F did I just hear?" And I said, I have no words. So at that point, the judge, he stopped proceedings because all the defense attorneys stood up. Because at that point, Cole had not waived his right yet to the preliminary hearing. So he's still there. So they all stood up, they rushed over to the judge, and the judge is like, yes, I get it. So he basically said, look, guys, we're pausing proceedings for a minute because these defendants deserve a right to a fair trial. And if you guys need to leave, then just go ahead. But shockingly, nobody left. And then he went on. But I wasn't the same after that. I mean, I going back to like this depressing motel room in the middle of nowhere after 2, I got to tell you, I was just like, okay, I got to get out of here. This is a mind F.
Yeah, that must have been quite something after hearing all that. And you went back the next day, right? That was on day 2?
Yeah. So I went back the next day, and that's when Cole, his attorneys had said, okay, Cole is going to waive his right to a speedy trial and the preliminary hearing. And so then we're like, okay, well, I guess we're left with one, which is why I think the whole thing went so much faster. And also why I think that we're still left with so many questions. Without Tiffany there's a lot that we don't know. And I think that I have to stop thinking about this in my head. There's a lot of speculation as to what happened with Jilian. And so, Cole's attorney, the only person that had a paid attorney was Tad. He had 2. So Kent Bridge is his second chair, and a woman named Joy Miskel is his first. And her website is called The Acquittal Queen. It's wild. But I believe Kent Bridge is eligible to do death penalty cases, which is why he has him. But Miskel, I mean, she was good. She did her job. And for a minute I was like, ooh, she's really good at raising doubt. But, we all know that, I mean, allegedly, Tad is very guilty, in my opinion. Very, very guilty. However, it's not about that. It's what you can prove. So for a hot second, I was like, oh my gosh, what if they end up dropping these murder charges against Tad and they just keep the kidnapping, conspiracy, unlawful death? And I was horrified for a second, but thankfully the judge, when everything was over, he did not even take a 3-second breath before he said, we're going to move on to try, whatever. So it was good. And something that bothered me, and I don't know if anyone else heard this, but I 100% stake my life that I heard this because I was right behind the DA. I heard him say something like, we can waive the right to the speedy trial when they were discussing Tad's next court date and then a trial. And, he kind of didn't say it again. And I thought to myself, did I hear that? And I did hear it. And that blew my mind, Gazella, because this guy is supposed to work for the people, right? You don't want to prolong something like this when you have families that just want it done. They want it behind them. They want justice. And so I'm just like, what?
Oh my goodness. So out of all those 5, right? Two of them took plea deals. Was it a plea deal? And what did they get? What do they have to do in exchange for that? And when will they next be in court?
Yes. So, okay, Paul, and listen, nothing is set in stone yet. Like, as I know for Cora, this is the recommendation. As I know for Paul, this is the recommendation. A judge has to put his final stamp on this. Paul, just death penalty is off the table. That's it.
Okay.
And hearing Paul, I don't think he cares if he gets death or not. I really don't. He said he would prefer not to, but he really was in the mindset, if I get death, I get death. Cora, and he's due back February 13th for further proceedings. And then Cora, what was recommended for her, which I was confused about, another one of those tweets I had to go back and be like, okay, because this is something that I think a lot of people are confused about, and it can be taken in different ways, but her recommendation was they were going to drop the unlawful desecration of those 2 charges of a human corpse and unlawful removal, drop those 2 charges, and then she would plead guilty to the other charges, and she would get, for the murder, she would get life with 30 years suspended. So Oklahoma is 45 years. That's life. So at first I was like, wait, is she just going to get, and then she would get 10 years for conspiracy. So at first I thought to myself, is she only going to get 30 years? I mean, or sorry, 15 years and then the 10. But Jarrett confirmed, he's like, I'm pretty certain she would get 30 years. That's what it means. And then the 10 for conspiracy. Also, part of her deal was that her minor daughter, who she told everything, would not have to testify. In addition, Cora was going to play a big role in the first attempt on Veronica Butler's life. And that was going to take place in Kansas, where Veronica lived. So the DA had said, okay, and the Stevens County DA in Kansas won't prosecute anything like that. And, I'm going to double check with Jared on this, but I was like, that's a huge deal, because I feel like crossing state lines to do this could be federal. So that also could be something huge. And so I'm kind of like, dude, this woman got a sweet deal. And in my opinion, she wasn't sorry. Not sorry at all.
Oh, no remorse there. But okay, so Cora Twombly, Cole Twombly's wife, took a plea deal. Cole didn't. He's just sitting there like he's at a play.
No. So the next day, Cole waived everything, the speedy trial and the preliminary hearing. So he's due back May 7th. Now, what's so weird about this is on his preliminary waiver, there's writing, like it might as well be in crayon, and it says waive to max all but 30, which must mean he's going to, for a plea deal that would say he pleads guilty and he gets 30 years. Look, I'm not certain. There's nothing set in stone, but that's what it says on the scribble. And I want to tell your moderators, it actually really is easy to get these documents now. So you can check do you know about this? The OCSN dockets. I mean, they post them every week, and I used to have to call to get them. Now you don't have to call.
Same.
Yeah, they're there already for you. You can just download them. But like, this one is weird. So I'm thinking, if I had to speculate, Cole is going to try to plead guilty and then get,
So then how many of the 5 would still perhaps potentially face the death penalty? 2 then.
Well, I think that, Tiffany and Tad, I think at this point, there's nothing there on the docket about Tiffany. Her next court date is April 16th. So at that point, they could figure out either, okay, we're going to go to trial, XYZ date, Or, and I hope to God this doesn't happen, and same with Tad, that the DA puts something on the table that says, okay, just plead guilty to all and you can do life without parole. That to me would not be fair. Not fair. I know that the family wants this to be done, but I think they also deserve to have her sit there and be judged by a jury of her peers. Or if she was smart, probably a bench trial, because no jury would ever say no to the death penalty here. But like I said, the DA worries me. He was super soft. So I think that if he doesn't recommend death for Tad or Tiffany, I think that's a really bad look. And look, Gisela, I say that, I mean, I don't take the death penalty lightly. I don't want to play God. But if you would have heard this, and then the way he said that she laughed, I don't see anything that would be fitting for this punishment, you know?
Right. Oh man, then that if that goes to trial, I mean, I can't imagine more horrifying details coming out. It's already been so bad. And at this preliminary hearing, okay, so 2 people took the stand because of their plea deals. The most
Yes.
interesting thing I think that Cora said was that God's Misfits, which is what they were known as a little bit, was just like a joke. So can you tell us more about that? What is that what she said? That it was kind of just a little joke. It's not really anything serious, because it sure sounds serious that these 5 people did what they did.
Yes. So, and by the way, this came out not through the DA, through Tad Cullum's attorney cross-examining her. A lot more came out with Tad Cullum's attorney. So she had said, oh, this was a joke that Cole actually came up with, and said, we don't fit in anywhere. We're just God's misfits. And then the attorney said, so you're not associated with anyone else, meaning like there's a guy, I think I forget which state, he was on Banfield being like, his name was Squirrel. I don't know if you remember that.
I remember, yes.
Yeah, he had like 300 followers on Facebook, and he was an actual preacher. And he's like, I don't know anything about this. But really, what was going on was that Paul Grice and his wife, Cora and Cole, and this other couple, Barrett and Lacey Cook, they were obsessed with this guy, David Straight. And they, I wrote this down because it's so confusing to me. And honestly, Cora was so stupid on the stand. She could not even explain properly what this was. And that's when I was just like, God, you are so stupid. You are so stupid that you don't even know. It's so frustrating. Anyway, but so it's the Sovereign Citizens Movement is led by this guy, David Straight, and this other guy, Bobby Lawrence. And they teach you how to become American state nationalists, which is less government regulations. They tell you how to run your businesses this way, but it's like this whole process that you have to go through to get this, what do you call it? Status, I guess. So Paul and his wife and Lacey and Barrett were going through the process, which is why you might have seen that whole, he filed that anti-government 44-page. I don't know if you don't have it, I can send it to you.
I don't think I saw that.
Oh, yeah. Well, because
Yeah.
This was a while ago, and I found it on this weird Oklahoma site, and you have to pay for it. And I found Barrett and Lacey Cooks as well, but it's really bizarre, and they were just obsessed. And Paul Grice even said he was wearing this David Straight sweatshirt the day of the murders. Tad and Tiffany, I don't think were as involved with this guy, but I guess he did seminars, and you can't really find too much about him online. Like there's not a website that's like davidstraight.com or Bob, and to be fair, I have not dug too much into it, but I came across just an adl.org glossary with David Straight, and they actually they compare him to QAnon. He teaches sovereignty with a QAnon bent, is what they say.
Interesting. Okay, and so they say it's a little joke, but they're also very bonded to each other. All 5. I think they really thought of themselves as God's misfits, and like sovereign citizens and vigilantes of some kind.
Well,
I don't know.
I mean, Cora's daughter like thought, I mean, so a lot of the kids would be at a lot of these there's a lot of kids there. So Cora's daughter telling the OSBI, oh, they called themselves God's Misfits. I mean, if she said that and she was there for a lot of it, there's got to be some truth that sure, maybe it was a joke, but I mean, she heard it enough times that she repeated it.
Exactly. Okay. Wow. Time is flying. You're gonna go live in 15 minutes. Okay, and we gotta go there. So let me ask you about Paul Grice, the youngest of the bunch. He was the fifth to be arrested, Grizzlies, if you remember. If you check out the homework that I had pinned for you or the playlist, the very last episode we did, you'll see all the pictures, who's who and what's what. We did a whole recap there. But Paul Grice, okay, he took the stand and he started explaining a bit more about the murders. And I was reading some of your posts on X and it just sounds terrible, especially with, I think it was whose eyes were fluttering and all of that. Now, this is very graphic, this detail, but could you tell us a little bit more about what Paul said happened to Veronica and Jilian? And it sounds like they're trying to pin the murders on Paul, right?
Yes. And so this is where I think, just like as a side note, I think this is where a lot of us have to be careful now, because this seems to be a huge part of Tad's defense, because Paul testified at this point that he never saw Tad with a knife. We know from which filing was it? It was the state's brief, and I believe that came out in September of 2024. Per the state's brief, it stated that Tad stabbed Jilian and Paul stabbed Veronica.
Yes.
They had this knife in their possession, they had. So, but again, because technically nobody saw except for Tiffany, who we haven't heard from yet, it's up in the air in terms of, listen, do I think Tad stabbed Jilian? Yes, I do. Opinion, speculation. But his defense is going to be that it was Paul, and I'll tell you why. So, without getting into too many details right now, just for time's sake, after Paul said all he could hear and see while he was attacking Veronica, he saw Jilian from the corner of his eye, and he saw Tiffany and Tad attack her and subdue her, kind of. Now, the next thing you know, Paul's finished. He says he goes into the white gooseneck trailer and the door shuts behind him. And Paul is telling us that he feels like, wait, am I being set up here? What's going on? He was not in a good place at this point. And again, I can go in further if we have more time another time or on mine, but not in a good place. So then he describes that he sees Jilian in the corner and her head is facing the back of the trailer. She's kind of on her left side, but she's laying down. He testified he only saw blood on her head, but he saw her eyes fluttering or blinking. And now he's in a weird spot. His arm is numb, and his right arm, by the way, is his dominant arm. So he moves over to her and he tries to check for a pulse, but the roads are too bumpy. And I can testify to this because I thought I had a flat tire when I was driving, because I was like, what's going on? Like, it's crazy. The roads are very bumpy. So he couldn't feel for anything. So he's like, I don't know if she's dead. I don't know if she's alive. I don't know what's going on. And he said that he thought of her being buried in the chest freezer. And if she wasn't dead, she'd wake up and she'd be terrified, he thought. So he says he stabbed her 2 to 3 times in the neck. So, yeah.
Wow, that is, and also I should have actually asked this first. So how did they, because what I read from your posts as well, your posts were very informative. You were right there,
I'm so glad because I
getting the whole
deleted
story.
so many of them. I was like, I hope this is coming across okay.
No, I was taking notes. I was like, oh, wow. So they lured them out of the car by saying that Veronica's children have a new cough. So come and look at it. Is that what they did?
So with Jilian, I'm not quite sure. I've heard okay, it was hard to hear. The DA was super soft and I was getting so mad. People were flipping their notebooks really loudly. There was lots of coughs and I was like, and I was in the front row. So There's a chance I missed something, but I did ask 2 other reporters. I said, do we know how Jilian got out of the car? We're not sure. All we know is what you said, that Tiffany had told Veronica that her children were in the trailer and they had a baby calf. And, Gazella, I thought to myself, I would fall for that. If someone's like, oh, your kids, they want to show. Okay. I mean, I would fall for that. And Paul was waiting in the trailer.
Oh
So,
man.
but like I said, it's very unclear at this point, the whole situation with Jilian, Tad, Tiffany. And I want to go back to something as well that the DA also didn't clarify, what I've speculated, and maybe you read this, but Cora was a lookout, and Cora said from where she was, she knew something went wrong because she saw 2 people run from the gooseneck trailer to Veronica's car. The DA doesn't ask to clarify, so I'm thinking it's Veronica and Jilian just running. Later, we find out it's actually Paul chasing Veronica. So Cora says she drives there, and she hears he's on top of Veronica, and he's saying, I need help, I need help. And Cora, she goes and she goes to her car and she grabs a stun gun and she hands it to Tiffany. And you expect the DA to say, and then what happened? And that, and he doesn't. So we're left sitting there, speculating that possibly Tiffany helped subdue Veronica. And if I had to speculate further, she rather enjoyed it.
Oh man. And with luring them to see a calf, it was also Veronica's daughter's birthday. I think it was her daughter's birthday. That's why they were fetching her. So to say, hey, there's a new calf, they might have also said, she got it for her birthday. Come have a look.
It's just
terrible.
beyond. It's beyond. And talking about some of the sites that I drove by there in Guyman, I went to the Walmart where she got the burner phones. I saw the Tractor Supply Co. where she got the straps. And by the way, this is all in like I don't know, like there are these what do you call it, strip malls just right across from each other. The Dollar General was right behind there where she was seen the next day. I mean, it was pretty eerie.
Sometimes we joke a little bit that there's unfortunately a Walmart in every case, and there was in this case too. Tiffany Adams, the grandmother, went to Walmart, right? Is that where she bought the burner phones? 5 of them?
That is where she bought the burner phones. Yes. Yep.
So yes, Grizzlies, there's a Walmart in this case
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
this is just, it's
Yeah.
so, I mean, I thought because it was a custody battle between Tiffany and Veronica that maybe they shot these women, which is already bad enough. But it's so much worse because the brutality, the amount of times that they stabbed each victim, then put them in a chest freezer and buried that in the ground is just, it's so unthinkable. And as I say, the trial, I think more details will come out, which will just be horrifying.
And something that I was wondering about is Jilian had, she was found with a mag but no pistol. And I keep wondering, well, what happened with that? Where is Jillian's gun? What happened? Did she try to use it? I just wonder. I wonder. And I know for a fact, just sitting there, these women fought. They fought so hard. I mean, so hard. And I get angry thinking about the fact that, how many enablers there were for these 5 people. I mean, including the judge in the custody battle, Gazella, because in most custody battles, you don't get to meet wherever you want. You meet at a police station or a school or a highly populated area. I mean, it's not right. It's not right. And Veronica had placed calls and she had placed complaints in Stevens County, and she was told, like, sorry, this is a civil matter. It's civil.
This is one of the worst custody battles I've ever heard of. We've heard some terrible ones, when spouses are normally fighting over kids or ex-spouses. This is like a grandmother, even trying to take the kids from her own son.
Yeah. Absolutely. She tried to take the kids from her own son. I mean, it's it's um it's unspeakable, and Wrangler was not there. He was not in court. I guess I didn't really expect him to be in court, but yeah, he wasn't there.
Oh man. So what's next in this case? Like what's the very next court date or the very next thing? And are you gonna be there again?
Oh God. I don't see myself going for any more pretrial stuff at all. Like I said, it was insane to get there. The next date is Monday, January 13th for Tad. And that date is when they are supposed to set a date for the trial, for his trial. And I heard his attorneys say something like they wanted to set it for the summer, or even the judge, like, oh, we could set it for the summertime. His first chair had said she has a conflict, but his second chair was like, well, I can do it in June or July. I think the question here is what's going to happen in between. Is there going to be something where Tad says, look, I'll just plead guilty and I'll get life without, but I just have a feeling he's not going to do that, because I think his lawyer really is going to just press on the fact that nobody saw Tad with this knife. However, I mean, it's crazy. Like, I thought about this, and this could be totally bizarre, but what if, my opinion, my speculation, what if Tiffany actually did it and he was taking the fall for her, and now he's going to be like, you know what? Screw this. I mean, she's, so I have to wonder, but I feel like he's not going to plead guilty and take a plea, because it would be life without parole most likely. And I think Tad thinks that he can fight this somehow because of his attorney.
Interesting. Okay, well, I'm going to be following it as well. I'm following your posts as well if you go there. I know both of us like to deep dive these documents.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing all of that inside info with us. I know you're going live in 2 minutes.
Yeah, yeah. I'll go into a bit more detail just because we'll have some time
Yes.
to do that. Yeah. And I can give a little bit more of a backstory, I think, as well, just for people who might not know a lot of some of these things, because there was a lot that kind of came out in Cora's testimony and Paul's as well that I wasn't even aware of. So
Yes. So thank you so much for being here. I'm going to let you go. Then I'm going to continue. I'm quickly going to tell them again about your channels and links and things. And we're going to be redirecting and see you in the chat in a few minutes.
awesome. Thank you so much for having me.
All right. Thanks for being here. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Okay, Grizzly. So we are going to be teleporting to Pop Crime TV with Lauren Conlin. If any of you felt lost in any of that, because I know I normally like to bring up pictures, I'm a visual person too, okay? I like to see who's who and point at the pictures. I'm sorry, I didn't do that today. I just wanted to get the inside information, from Lauren, who was in the courtroom throughout this preliminary hearing, which lasted 3 days. And there was a lot that came out from it. I could tell from her posts as well on X. I have put all her social links and channel links and everything in the description box. She's got 2 channels, as I say, Pop Crime TV with Lauren Conlin. She's also got Prime Time Crime, the Linktree link Nightbot has been sharing. And she's also got a website, popcrime.tv. So that's all in the description box. And if you see here, I'm going to put this link now in the chat. Okay, there we go. So go over there, or you can just wait for the outro to play, and then we will all be teleporting there. Please also monitor my channel, because we're still going to be covering the Delphi press conference, which will be a little late for. It's probably already happening now. But we're all going to first go to Lauren's show, and then later we meet again after that to watch the Delphi press conference together. If you didn't see my YouTube short, Richard Allen was sentenced to 130 years in prison. So there's a press conference where the police will be talking, I guess, in the States and all of that to the media. So I will see you again for a second stream. Right now, let's all go and check out what Lauren's got to say. Maybe we'll learn some more details. And if you haven't yet, as I say, followed this case, please just check out the playlist. It's in the description box. And I've done a lot of presentations where we can look at who's who and what happened and all of that, and who's responsible at this point from what we know for allegedly murdering Veronica, and who murdered Jilian. And this case is just, it's a lot. And the more we go, the more horrifying it is. I just can't believe it. Every time we learn new things, I'm like, what? I can't believe it. So thank you so much for following it with me. I hope that you are all well, that you're having a great December so far. It's almost Christmas. Thanks for being here. Are you ready to teleport now? I see Patricia says, prepare to teleport. Everybody, Buckle up. We're about to teleport. Here we go.